Central Alabama. And we look forward to being a conduit of community, relationship building, diversity, and inclusion. Again, thank you for participating in the Global Business Summit. And here we go.
All right, so now we are going to pass it over to Ms. Megan Booth. So Megan, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me. So we do have a special greeting for you from Secretary Ben Carson, who is the Secretary of the Department of Housing and Urban Development, that I want to share with you, but I do need whoever is the host to let me share my screen so that I can show you that.
Very important.
I think he's doing that shortly, Megan.
That's
So.
fine.
I'm sorry about that. We're trying to say multiple times here that we are trying to make you an admin at the moment. Give us one moment.
No worries.
Make co-host. There you go.
Yep, I can do it now. Okie dokie. All right, y'all are gonna have to let me know if you can hear this, because sometimes the sound doesn't work. Give me a thumbs up. You hear? No. Okay, so you cannot hear him. So hold on.
No.
So let me just do, I think I have to do something in here to tell it to, I have to go into my video settings and tell it to hear the sound. Okay, let me see if this is gonna work. All right, I'm gonna hit play again and you all can let me know if this is working. Yes, no, you hear? No, you still can't hear? All right. I don't know what else to do, so I'm gonna do my presentation. And I know I also sent Will has this presentation that I sent him. So if he wants to work on figuring out how to get it to play with sound, because he's a very beautiful man, but you're gonna wanna hear what he has to say too, not just look at him. So I'll do my presentation and then hopefully at the end, maybe we can get him off. Okay, so we have been working overtime with the pandemic to make sure that realtors across the country get the relief that they need during this crisis, and that home buyers and renters and housing providers all also get that relief. So we are trying to, we have been setting up with Congress on a number of provisions to extend some of the pandemic provisions that were provided in previous legislation. They are now working on relief bill number 4/5, depending on how you count them. So the House put out their bill, the HEROES Act. They passed that back in late June. And the Senate has now put out their proposal, which is called the HEALS Act, which stands for Health, Economic Assistance, Liability, and Schools. So the House Democrats' plan was about a $3.2 billion bill. This bill is only a $1 trillion bill, only government money. And so it contains a number of things that we support. It contains an extension to the pandemic unemployment, although it lowers it from the House passed the previous $600 extra federal a week down to $200 a week. We would like it to be a little bit more with that, depending on how they combine it with other assistance. It does contain an employer hiring and retention tax credit, which we strongly support. It includes liability relief, which we think is really important for businesses, including realtor offices, so that if someone were to come into your office or conduct business with you, as long as you were following all relevant like CDC guidelines, you couldn't be held liable if that person, for example, got COVID after being in your office or working with you. It enhances the PPP, the Payment Protection Plan Paycheck Protection Plan program so that 501c6s can apply, which are your associations. And it would allow people to take out a second loan if they took a loan previously. It doesn't provide any additional money, but there's still a bunch of money in that program. So it would have to extend the deadlines as well. What are some of the other things we want? We want to make sure that the forbearance provisions that are in the law already are strengthened and made clear to borrowers. We want rental assistance for rental tenants. A lot of communities, the federal government and communities have had prohibitions on evictions, which is a good way to keep people in their homes, but not to keep that housing sustainable. If the housing providers don't have money to pay their taxes, their insurance, their mortgage, the maintenance, everything else they need to do to operate that property, that's not going to be long-term sustainable. So we want direct rental assistance that goes to housing providers for tenants who are financially suffering and need to have assistance paying their rent. We want money for housing counseling. A lot of people who went through forbearance, especially ones who took it early, weren't necessarily given the best direction by their servicer or understood what their options were under forbearance. So we're worried that there could be people who, when they come out of forbearance, are all of a sudden going to have a lump sum payment that they have to make for their mortgages, and that could lead people to go into foreclosure. So we don't want that to happen. So we're asking for additional money for housing counseling to try and help with that. There were also provisions of the previous bill, the CARES Act, that allowed consumers who were in forbearance or who were not currently paying their rent or paying all of their rent to have protection from their credit score being hurt if they worked out an agreement with their landlord or with their mortgage servicer for forbearance. They weren't supposed to be dinged on their credit. There's some loopholes that servicers have been using to try and they'll say that they're current, but then they put a little note in forbearance, which that's not what they're supposed to do. So we'd like some clarity around that so that people understand how those credit score protections are supposed to work. And then the last thing that we're trying to get in this bill is remote notary for the whole country. And to sort of make that more, we've heard of instances where places are accepting remote notary, but this whole settlement can't be done remotely. And so we want to try to expand that to get more settlement done. So those are sort of the relief things we're working on. Like I said, the House sort of put out their package at the end of June. The Senate has now sent back their package. We imagine they're all negotiating. We're going to have to see in the next, it'll be like in the next week. We'll see what they come out with. We expect a vote on some kind of bill next week. So I will say the biggest things we're pushing right now are the liability protection and the pandemic, some kind of continued pandemic uninsurance availability for self-employed and independent contractors, and also rental assistance. We don't want just there was talk about just doing another big prohibition on evictions. That is not going to keep rental stock available for people. We need rental assistance instead. So those are sort of our big things. At the same time, the rest of the world, things are still happening outside of the pandemic, hard to believe. But some of those things are, for example, the National Flood Insurance Program. I know flood insurance is important to Alabama, the coastal parts of Alabama. And so how do we make sure that flood insurance is available? One of the ways we need to do that is by extending the program. We don't want another short-term extension. It currently expires on September 30th. We want at least a 5-year extension for that program, so we will continue to push for that bill. Also, the highway funding bill, the Highway Trust Fund is due to be reauthorized by September 30th. And so we will be pushing for money for infrastructure projects across the country. And the last thing I want to mention is fair housing. We've been doing a lot of work with our brand new director of fair housing in our organization, Brian Green, who's my colleague, who's fantastic, and has been expanding on our ACT program, which is our program to really promote affordable housing throughout the real estate industry and throughout our members and throughout activities by Congress and the government. So we are doing a lot of things in that area. I hope you all have seen, we have a video on our website now on implicit bias that I think is really, really enlightening. So I encourage you to look at that, and we'll be following up with some more courses on that program as well. Looking forward into 2020, you all are probably aware that there's a big election going to happen in November. So depending on what the outcome of that is, we're trying to figure out what priorities we're going to have to be working on moving forward into 2021. Some of the ones we definitely want to promote are a homeownership tax credit. A tax credit. This happened after, if you remember, if any of you were in the business after the Great Recession, we did a homeownership $15,000 homeownership tax credit that you could actually get in advance to use as your down payment. It was a very successful program and got people back into buying homes after the Great Recession. So we are supporting a program like that. We've heard positive things from Democratic candidate Biden on that program. He has mentioned that program specifically as something he wants to promote. So depending on the results of the election, that could be something that we're going to be promoting very highly. And one that the presidential candidate Biden has brought up that we are not as excited about is he has said that he's not a big fan of the 1031 like-kind exchange program, which, especially if you guys have any commercial members, but it could also be used in residential purposes. The 1031 is a very important tool that people use to refurbish old stock, both commercial and residential. And it is not a tax loophole. It's just a tax deferment. You still owe that tax. You just don't owe it at the time of the transfer. But it can really help communities. It can reinvigorate communities where you have, if you have real estate that is, depressed. If someone does a like-kind exchange, they can put more money into that asset and revitalize that community. We have some great examples from realtors who have done these types of deals all across the country. Things you wouldn't even think of as being helpful to a community. For example, there was we had a realtor about 2 years ago who did a 1031 in Pennsylvania, where the 1031 he acquired was an old warehouse. He tore it down and put up a Wendy's there, which you're thinking, it's a Wendy's, who cares? Well, this was like kind of the neighborhood was depressed because of this old empty warehouse that had been there forever, and just literally cleaning up that site and putting in a Wendy's fast food restaurant completely changed the dynamic of that corner in this neighborhood. Instead of making it the scary corner that everybody ran past because they didn't know there was this big empty old broken down building, it was now a commercial center. So 1031s are great. We're putting some money into some studies on the importance of 1031s and what they can do to communities. And so we will be starting that education in the fall now, just in case this becomes a big issue next year. So re-educating members of Congress about the benefits of 1031 to communities and why it's not a tax loophole, that it actually helps put money back into communities. So those are sort of some of the big things we're working on right now. I hope you all go to our website. I'm going to put the link in the chat right now for where you can find our all of our coronavirus information. We have FAQs and videos and infographics and all of that. I'm putting it into here. I'm going to put it in the chat right now. So I hope you go there. We update that probably routinely. We update that weekly or more, depending on what kind of information is coming out. During the start of the pandemic, I can tell you in April and May, we were updating it daily. So as things come up, we keep updating it. So I encourage you to go there and take a look at all those resources we have. I don't know if Will or somebody is going to try and show the Carson video.
Yes, we were able to pull it up, so we're going to try to show that now. Okay.
Let us know if anybody has trouble hearing the video by show of thumbs.
Association of Realtors and the Central Alabama Global Alliance for inviting me to join your business summit. During these times, I'm grateful we're able to connect over a virtual platform since we're not able to be together in person. Thank you for all your work to increase access to affordable housing across the community. We are proud of your organization's efforts under the leadership of President Lucas to work with your state and local governments to expand housing opportunities for the residents of Birmingham and the greater Jefferson County area. You, the local leaders, entrepreneurs, investors, and business professionals have the power to make a difference. And we appreciate your work in helping make the American dream a reality for all. At HUD, we understand that stable housing is the key to a stable life. A strong nation depends on strong communities. Strong communities depend on strong families. And ultimately, strong families depend on strong homes. For some Americans, however, access to affordable housing has remained out of reach. In many places, housing supply has simply not kept pace with demand, often due to cumbersome and expensive government regulations. The coronavirus pandemic has only exacerbated these difficulties. With rents rising faster than incomes, we need to bring everybody to the table to produce more affordable housing and ease the pressure that is forcing too many of our neighbors into our shelters and onto our streets. This is not just a federal problem, it's everybody's problem. Just over a year ago, in June of 2019, President Trump established the White House Council on eliminating regulatory barriers to affordable housing to respond to this need for more affordable housing. I have the privilege to chair the council, which coordinates efforts across 8 federal member agencies. We understand that regulations are often necessary to protect the health and safety of American citizens, such as clean air, water, or disaster mitigation practices. However, outdated, overly time-consuming, and costly requirements prolong the completion of new housing supply, and those costs are shifted to the consumer, particularly in tight markets. Over the last year, we have engaged with governments at all levels, as well as other private sector and nonprofit stakeholders, to learn about the impact of the more cumbersome and duplicative regulations. Before the coronavirus changed our plans to continue a nationwide bus tour focused on the work of the council, we visited a Clayton manufacturing plant in Russellville, Alabama, and had a great discussion about the importance of manufactured housing with Governor Kay Ivey. We want to encourage communities to scale back overly burdensome regulations that impede the development of affordable housing. Later this summer, we will submit a report to President Trump outlining our findings about the impact of regulations upon the prices of housing. This formula of eliminating regulatory barriers to affordable housing, coupled with the exciting new innovations in manufactured housing, has the potential to put the American dream back in the reach for wide swaths of the country. It is always good to see groups like yours that understand the problem and are taking steps to work toward a solution. I commend you for your efforts, and I look forward to seeing more success stories from the great state of Alabama. Thank you, and God bless.
So we're happy to say we have a very good relationship with HUD and with Secretary Carson. And so when he's talking about the regulatory barriers, we did submit like a 10-page letter to the White House and to HUD on regulatory barriers that we think will help us with the need for more inventory in our housing markets, the need for affordable housing, all of those types of issues that you all are experiencing in Alabama and across the country, in terms of making sure that you have good opportunities for people to find the American dream. So we're hopeful that some of our ideas will be included in the proposal that they put forth to the White House, and we will be keeping you updated on all of that. So I'm happy to take any questions. I did see a question in the chat about, are we talking to the different candidates in Congress before the election? We absolutely are. We have written white papers for both the party platform. So at the convention in later this month, the very unusual conventions we're going to be having, the parties vote on a platform. So the Republican Party will vote on what their party platform is, and the Democrats will vote on what their party platform is. So we have provided them with a number of different ideas for things that we would like to see included in those platforms. And both the ones I mentioned earlier, the homeownership tax credit and the 1031 like-kind exchange, are big parts of those papers. So we have been working on that throughout, and we're hopeful to see what comes out in their final platforms as moving forward. And once we have that finalized, then we are going to start to send letters to Congress saying, hey, this is what's in, Democrats, this is what's in your platform. Here's what we would change. Here's what we like. Republicans, here's what's in your platform. Here's what we change. Here's what we'd like. Does anyone have any other questions for me?
Awesome. Any additional questions for Megan? All right. Thank you so much, Megan. That's great information. I got my notepad and was taking good notes myself. So if you guys do have more information or have information about the coronavirus, Megan did include that link into the chat. So go to www.nard.realtor.com/coronavirus #section. So thank you again so much for the information. We greatly appreciate it. All right, so next we will hear from about the World Games. So Ms. Dee Mathis, you are up next.
Well, hello, everyone. How are you today? Thank you for allowing me to be here with you. I'm excited to share some updates with you guys from what was the World Games 2021 is now the World Games 2022. And with that move came a lot of silver linings, and some are unexpectedly positive. So I see a lot of familiar faces from the last time we were together, when we back in the good old days when we used to get together in person. But I'll just give a quick recap for those that are new to the World Games. The World Games is a partner to the Olympics. So a sport is either in the Olympics or in the World Games. You can kind of think of the World Games as, I think of them almost as like minor league baseball to major league baseball, in that a sport may go up and down between the two. But when we're talking about these athletes, they are the best athletes in the world in their given sport. And so when you see the World Games logo here in my office, you'll actually see the Olympic rings in our office, which is a big deal. It's really one of the world's largest brands. And to be able to be associated with that and to host an event of that magnitude in Birmingham is just really, really exciting. So here's a quick glance at some of the cities that the World Games have been in to date. As you can see, it really does touch all over the world. They started off back in 1981 in Santa Clara, California, and it hasn't been back to the US since. So very, very exciting to have it back. It goes to Chengdu, China in 2025. And just to give you perspective of the difference between the size of Birmingham to Chengdu, Chengdu has a metropolitan population of almost 20 million. So we are very, very fortunate to have the World Games coming to Birmingham, because it does put us on a global platform. We'll be hosting 3,600 international athletes from over 100 countries, 33 different international federations of sport, and this will be broadcast all over the world. In 2017, it was an audience of about 100 million. We believe that we will be well north of that with the addition of the Olympic Channel. So very exciting to see that. And I wanted to just give you a very quick glance into the sports of the World Games. And so we have a little 90-second video that will show you a lot of the sports, and some of them will be really familiar. And then some of them you will think, I have never seen anything quite like that before. But I think that will all add to the appeal of the World Games. So I'm just going to hit play and let you guys get a little taste.
In July of 2022, the eyes of the world will once again be focused on Birmingham, Alabama, the Magic City. For only the second time in history, the World Games will be played on American soil. 3,600 world-class athletes will come from every corner of the world, from more than 100 countries in all, to participate in some of the most unique sporting events the world has to offer, some of which will go on to become Olympic sports. More than 1,500 credentialed media will be here to tell the story. Birmingham's story. The story of triumph, goodwill, determination, and evolution, and how Birmingham has rightfully taken its place as a premier international sporting destination. The World Games 2022 will be watched by millions around the world. They'll see the emergence of Birmingham on the world stage. Let the world come and witness history. Birmingham is ready.
So that's a little taste of the sports of the World Games. And we always joke, no, we are not quite ready. There's still a lot to be done, but we're getting closer all the time. You notice in the video that obviously this is a big deal. We're looking at over 500,000 spectators coming to our city, and that will bring with it an economic impact of well over $250 million. This is by far the biggest undertaking for an event that our state has ever seen. We have a budget that is north of $50 million to host the games and to put Birmingham on this global stage. But along with all of the economic impact, we also believe that this is our opportunity to really rewrite the narrative of Birmingham. This will be the first international sporting event on American soil since the pandemic, and we believe that it will be truly a inflection point for reuniting and reunification that will be really, really special. So you'll see that we're set up just like an Olympics, with an opening ceremony and a closing ceremony, 10 days of competition in between, and then a great big party in the middle called Athletes Night. Here is just a listing of the sports you just saw. So a lot of them, again, that will be very familiar, and then some that are just different, but are really big in other parts of the world. Korfball is one that always comes to mind, and that's the one where you saw them, looks like they're playing basketball, but there's no rim, and they're kind of playing it in a 360 fashion. That's actually a co-ed team. That's huge in the Netherlands, but very, very new to us here. I have wheelchair rugby bolded on this list for a reason. The World Games 2022 will be the first games in history that will include an adapted sport in the primary sports program. If you think about the Olympics has, well, the Olympics, and then we have the Paralympics for adapted sports. So the competitions are separate. We're actually bringing in wheelchair rugby into the primary sports program and are working with Lakeshore Foundation to do a disability inclusion program that will really be a part of the narrative of Birmingham being an inclusive city. And we think this will be a really special message and obviously a very important audience for us. A strategic partnership that was just announced last month is the addition of flag football to the roster. The NFL is actually our presenting sponsor, and this is really important for a couple of reasons. One, the NFL is going to promote the World Games across all of their platforms, and you can imagine how big this audience is. Second, they're going to be introducing us and endorsing us with their sponsors, which helps us to pay for the games. And that is what keeps me up at night, personally. Flag football is so important to the NFL because with, frankly, the concussion issues that they've had, this gets moms and dads comfortable with letting little Johnny play football. And from an inclusion perspective, there is also women's flag football, which is going to be really fun to see the ladies out on the field. So I'm really excited about that partnership. Just going on down the line of fun things to expect with the World Games is the World Games Plaza. This will be the social hub of the games. We will be having food and drink and concert and activities for the kids and just entertainment really every single day and night of the games. This will be presented by regions, and we have a really good shot of seeing this move to the city center where the new City Walk will be. So how exciting is that? Because that is going to be an incredible, incredible jewel for our city. And just to show you a glimpse of how big the World Games Plaza is, here's just a quick little snapshot of the World Games Plaza in 2017 in Wrocław, Poland. So, good times. Hopefully you've also seen the announcement of one of our honorary co-chairs, Sir Charles Barkley. And Charles was going to try to be with us today via video, but as you guys probably have heard, the whole NBA is kind of, air quotes, in the bubble in Orlando right now. And so that was not possible, but hopefully after the NBA season is over, he can join us. But we're proud to have Charles on the World Games team, and his voice will be an important voice as we tell the story of the games and our city and all that we have to offer. And just a couple of other things that are somewhat aspirational is that we're still working on them, but we do plan to have a World Games 2022 gala that will kick off even prior to the opening ceremonies. And we're also hoping to bring in a concert series in cooperation with UAB that would be free with a World Games ticket. And when we say concert series, we do mean series in that our goal is to have a hip hop artist, a country artist, and then something that sounds way too new to me to be considered like classic rock, because for people I grew up with, but like a Journey or a Hall & Oates, someone like that. So many exciting things going on. So you may be asking yourself, how can I get involved? There are a couple of ways. So many people want to know how they can work with the World Games. And if you have an interest in becoming a vendor, just go to our website, twg2022.com/woo. And what WOO stands for is our World of Opportunity. And that is where we are creating a big database of local vendors. And we are specifically looking to hire local, diverse, female companies. So please check that out. We're also collecting information to put in our volunteer database, and we would love for you guys to volunteer for the games. So that's just a /volunteer. And we will be announcing a volunteer sponsor in the coming weeks, as well as kind of next steps to get involved. If you would like to sponsor the World Games, just reach out to me. Again, Dee Mathis, but my email is just dmathis@twg2022.com. And of course, we'd love for you to buy some tickets as well. And those go on sale 1 year out from the games. So that's next July 7th. And at this point, I'm happy to take questions or just hear feedback from the group.
Dee Dee, it's a pleasure to see you again. This is Phyllis Connell. And someone did ask a question about, will we be able to share the video on our website that you presented?
I would be happy to get that file to you. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm so excited. I really hate that it wasn't 2021, but we'll be ready for it in 2022.
That's right. You know what? Because we are an Olympic partner, when the Olympics moved to 2021, it really made it impossible for us to happen within a couple of weeks of them, with so many resources that are shared. So for instance, Swiss Timing is a partner to both, and that would put them literally on two sides of the world within just a couple of weeks. So it made a lot of sense, and it did give us some silver linings. The addition of flag football happened because of the extra year. The renovations at BJCC, their legacy arena, will be finished in 2022.
Oh, right.
So, and not that there's been anything officially announced yet, but there may be in coming days, because there may be some cool things that could possibly happen at Protective Stadium, which would not have been finished in 2021. So some really nice silver linings came out of it, and it gives us an extra year to activate our partners, and it gives us an extra year for planning and just to put Birmingham on the world stage in the most positive light possible.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Didi, can you?
Oh, I see someone's lips moving, but can't hear. John, were you saying something?
Yes, can you please put your information back up on the screen one more time?
Sure.
Thank you.
Are you talking about this? Is that what you needed, John?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
And I'm happy to send this presentation to Phyllis or William or whoever would want to get it out to the group, if that would be helpful.
That will be great. We look forward to receiving it. Thank you so much, Didi.
You're so welcome. Thank you for having me. It's good to see y'all again. And I look forward to the day when we can actually see each other in person.
Absolutely.
Thank you again, Didi. And before we move to our next speaker, I do want to acknowledge that Ms. Sina Johnson, our Regional VP of Alabama Association of Realtors, we want to thank you for joining today as well. So our next speaker is going to be Mr. Kevin Datcher from the...
No, it's Lisa. Sorry.
I'm
Lisa.
sorry, excuse me.
We skipped over Lisa. It's going to be. Lisa.
All right, sorry about that, guys. So our next speaker is going to be Miss Lisa Calarco. I hope I pronounced that right. She's Manager in Business Development and Outreach at the National Association of Realtors, Global Business and Overview. So Lisa, if you are ready.
I am. Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me today. Yep, I'm Lisa Calarco. I'm the Manager of Global Programs and Outreach for the National Association of Realtors. I have a presentation. If I can share my screen, that would be great. Perfect. Okay. So let's talk about global opportunities at the National Association of Realtors. So NAR does have a global team. We work within the engagement team of the National Association of Realtors. And I wanted to just kind of go over a few of our, goals so that you understand what NAR's purpose is in the global space and how we can help you achieve some of your goals at the local level. Okay. First of all, big, hairy goals that we have at the national level is to help our members become more successful and lucrative in the global real estate markets. Of course, that's our priority, right? So we have foreign investment always in the U.S. continues to remain high. So how do we help our members become more successful reaching into that global real estate space? Next goal is to, of course, raise the level of professionalism in the real estate field throughout the world. So we provide education opportunities and best practices and individual membership opportunities, not only in the United States, but around the world. And then our last goal would be to help develop and strengthen real estate markets around the world by helping to implement global best practices and strategies. Now, this includes big things like licensing standardization, MLS property platforms, advocacy, and anything else that helps create a transparent, safe, and profitable real estate market for all participating in it. So how do we accomplish our goals? Well, some of it is just in the networking alone. So we have 105 partner associations in 85 countries around the world, and that does represent about 7 million real estate professionals all around the globe that are connected through these partnerships. In addition to that, we have 24 global ambassadors. If you've been around for a while, they used to be called President's Liaisons, but over the last few years, we've changed the nomenclature, and now it's global ambassadors. And so those are NAR members. Those are US-based NAR members that serve are appointed by the NAR president to be our ambassador to these countries around the world. We have 24 of them, and then we have 5 global coordinators, and they are the region coordinators. So they oversee the specific, like Western Europe, South America, those specific regions around the world. And then of course we have our over 130 global business councils, which is what the Central Alabama Global Alliance is part of. Those are at the state and local level of associations, obviously. And we have those in 28 states around the country. We also have 44 ambassador associations. So those are like Birmingham is the ambassador association to our partners in Jamaica. So there are 44 of those relationships that help us connect association to association with those partner associations around the world. So we have association to association connections, and we have member to member connections as well. And then of course there are, as the nature of all this, there are over 5,000 international realtor members represented. So these are members that, this isn't for you, this isn't a category you can join. As a member of the National Association of Realtors, you already are a realtor member. These are members who can join the National Association from anywhere in the world, as long as they are a member of one of our partner associations. These partner associations are vetted. They sign bilateral partnership agreements with NAR. They have to abide, they have to have similar look and feel to the national associations, and the fact that they have to have a similar, not same, not identical, anything like that, but code of ethics and all those kind of things before we agree to embark on these relationships. And so if you're a member of that association, for example, in Jamaica, and you can join the National Association of Realtors as well. So that is what those 5,000 realtor members represent. And so again, there's just network upon network upon network that is already built at the National Association of Realtors to help you improve your global network. There's also this new series that we've launched. So it's called the Platinum Perspective Series. It's where this year, we just launched it a few weeks ago. We're interviewing, actually I'm interviewing the 11 state and local associations that achieved Platinum Achievement Award status in 2019. I'm interviewing them one at a time to just have a conversation about how they became such a high achieving global group, how that benefits them, how that benefits their communities. And then you can go ahead and listen. You can go to NAR. Oops.
I won't complain.
You can go to nar.realtor/platinum-perspective.
I'm not in the back off.
Okay, you can listen to the past audio recordings of them, or you can register for any of the future. There will be one tomorrow. We'll be talking to the Chicago Association of Realtors tomorrow, and then they are scheduled for every other week on Thursdays at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time, always the same time, same place, on Zoom, and all the registration links are there. So if you're curious what other associations are doing, if you just want to hear from them, some of their award-winning ideas and how they've really engaged their community and everything, please feel free to listen to past episodes. We only do audio, so nobody has to sit and listen or view a video anymore. You can just listen to the audio conversation, because it truly is just a conversation. The Zoom, the actual live ones are live on Zoom, they're video, so feel free to join in on that. And again, you can find all of that right at that website there.
It's great information as well, so I encourage everyone to click on.
Thank you, Phyllis. Yes, thank you. A little shout out, thank you. Yeah, with the last two we did were Raleigh Regional and Main Street Organization. Those were the two that are in the can, as they say in that world. And now, like I said, tomorrow we'll be heading up with the Chicago Association, and then it goes from there. Okay, so why does NAR pay attention to this? These are just some data. I'm the person, I need to see data. I need to understand what you're talking to me and why I should be paying attention. These are just very high points. Last year's report, which the 2020 report is going to be coming out in the next few days. So this data is going to change in a matter of hours, essentially. So keep your eyes open. That always hits the media blitz. And so you'll be seeing it. You can download it as an NAR member, all of that. And you'll see a little bit of this changing. But 2019, which is March 2018 to March 2019, that's the period that we survey every year, is March to March. we saw $78 billion of just residential purchases made by international buyers. 60% of them were resident foreign buyers. So keep in mind, there's non-resident foreign buyers and there's resident foreign buyers. And the resident foreign buyers are exactly what it sounds like. They live here. They hold green card status. They're recent immigrants, citizens of this country within 2 years. So 60% of them, and that's a trend that we have seen change over the last few years. A lot of it, 2010, 2011, all of that was more heavily non-resident foreign buyers. And that's exactly what it sounds like as well. Those are the people who don't live here. They're investment buyers who hold residency in any other country besides the United States. And so we're starting to see a trend that, they're more tipping towards the resident foreign buyers, which makes logical sense when you look at 47% of them purchase primary residences. So these are people in your community that are living here, that have resident status, and that are just looking to purchase a home probably for the very first time. And so you need to be paying attention to that and watching the trends, especially if you're a realtor trying to make your mark in this specific area of the industry. We also do commercial international transaction reports. $99.7 billion came in on that side. Now, we combine our data and research with Real Capital Analytics, and NAR takes in 2.5 million and below is the data that we look at in these transactions, is typical amount of purchase prices by folks that our members represent, our commercial members represent. And the other comes from Real Capital Analytics. And of course, they look at the 2.5 million and above range. So put those all together and you get it, $100 billion came in on the commercial side of these transactions as well. They're a little different. So if you're in the commercial space, you can't just, hear one talking point and think you understand the entire market. Commercial buyers are 52% all cash, 67% and 75% of buyers and 75% of sellers in this space live abroad. So they're not looking, they're not living here. They're not resident foreign buyers. They are investment buyers, corporations, and all of that. That research is all available again at nar.realtor/research. It doesn't get any easier than that. And then you can go to, there's a drop-down box that says international, and these reports will be found under there, as well as many other state-by-state reports and past reports that have been done as well. So in 2019, we saw the number go down, and inevitably, I don't know that 2020 will see a big drop, but we all are just kind of holding our breath. What's 2021? And honestly, in my opinion, I think we don't see the results of what's happened in the world with the coronavirus until 2022, to be quite frank. So either way, any of the impacts that we saw lower the investment amount in 2019, because it did. It went down from 121 billion to 78 billion. And that was I think a lot of people felt like it was a shock, but it's not when you take a look at what impacts these investments. And honestly, it had brought it back down to the levels we were used to seeing in the global space. We had seen such insane levels before. We couldn't even wrap our minds around it. And so now we're coming back to what we consider standard amount of investment by foreign buyers in the residential space specifically. But as always, you have to take a look around and just figure out what's impacting that investment. And it's simple, really. It's low inventory, which is impacting your domestic buyers. I mean, that's going to impact your global buyers as well. So you all know existing healthy level is about 6 months of supply. In April of 2019, when this report was finalizing, at that time, we were looking at 4.2 months of inventory on the market. So there's just not property to buy. So nobody's buying it, or they're all fighting to buy the same piece of property. And then it's especially tight at that 250K and below price point, which, remember a few slides ago, I said that most of these folks were looking to purchase primary residences, typically around that price point. So that's why we saw the investment number go down. Again, another thing to pay attention to is the strong US dollar. A strong dollar means our home prices are more expensive when measured in a foreign currency, against a foreign currency. And so 2009, 10, 11, the dollar was weak in comparison to other currencies. And so we did see a big flock of investors saying, I can get more house in my currency in the US market than I could here. And so now that our dollar has re-strengthened, that will impact investment. And again, if you're a realtor in this space, you should be paying attention to currency fluctuations and how that's going to impact your buyers and or sellers. And then of course, generally speaking, nothing any of us can do about this, but there was just a general global slowdown, which of course I think is an effect we'll probably be feeling in the next few years a little more heavily than we did in 2019. Rising economic growth improves the capability of foreign buyers. Many countries around the globe since 2017 have started to see an economic slowdown. And so that impacts the liquidity of their money to be able to be moved. So paying attention to how these impacts really impact your local market will make you a smarter and more trusted advisor when it comes to the global real estate space. Now, I feel like I just delivered you a bunch of really bad news, but it's not. I really believe there's a ton of opportunity when you have all the tools at your disposal. And so if you have sellers, okay, so you had those buyers that purchased when the dollar was weak, and now can you turn those buyers? Are they looking into selling that real estate? How do you market that? How do you craft your business plan to say, I'm a trusted advisor. I understand the currency fluctuations that are happening. Have you considered selling your property to get your money, your investment back? That's an opportunity for you. Another opportunity is to take the time. You probably don't have much of it now, but I think a few months ago, a lot of people kind of wondering, we have a little bit more time on our hands than we have in a while. Take the time to become more knowledgeable in this space. Take the classes, understand, sharpen your skills, connect to your association and your community, become the expert so that you can help those clients. So there's limited amounts of clients, right? There's not a lot of inventory. Maybe their currencies are changing, this and that, but they're still there. There's still $78 billion worth of international transactions happening in the United States. And so it's not evaporated into thin air. You just have to sharpen your knives. You just have to become smarter and more valuable to your clients to be able to capture that share of the market. You need to learn how to network. If you don't have a strong global network, then start figuring out how to connect to it. The Central Alabama Global Alliance, all those other things I talked about in the beginning through NAR and the opportunities. How can you create a network? If you're sellers, maybe you're on Gulf Shores and they had a wonderful vacation home there, and now they're looking to pull up sticks from there and reinvest their money elsewhere, and be it in the United States or around the world. Do you have the network to help connect them to that next opportunity? That makes you invaluable. And of course, community. Typically my background says community, community, community. I'm a big community advocate. Today I went with plain old blue, but 60% of the foreign buyers, remember that slide, they were recent immigrants who reside in the United States. They're here and work, they're here as students. They're part of your community. Are you actively part of that community in your local market? You as a member, you as an association, are you finding those people who are looking to purchase their primary residence in Birmingham, Alabama, or wherever you're from in Alabama? Do you know how to help that community? Are you part of them? Are you supporting that? Because they're home buyers and they're home sellers, and being able to connect into that, I think, is imperative in your business plan. Real quick, I saw the rest of your agenda. You're going to have much more people with a lot more detail and information on these numbers than I am. So I just want to let you know, like, that was the big picture of why NAR pays attention to it, but this is why Alabama has to be paying attention to foreign direct investment. First of all, you have over 9,000 students, international students, attending Alabama institutions last year alone. Okay, students are important when it comes, international students are important when it comes to the real estate market. A lot of their parents purchase properties and they stay on, they get recruited by companies, they turn into, H-1B visa holders, specialized worker visas, all those kind of things that they'll reinvest in your community. Last year you had 4.2, just last year, just 2018. Well, I guess that was 2 years ago. 2020 doesn't, I've erased it from my memory. $4.2 billion was invested by foreign direct investment in Alabama's economy alone in just 2018 by that, like I said, foreign direct investment. And then give or take, I'm sure this number changes. You could, let's say 400 plus, but at the last count I saw was 426 international establishments have made Alabama their home. They are actively seeking your ready, willing, and able workforce, your right to work state, your deep water port, your interconnectivity with the interstate system. They are putting down roots in Alabama at untold numbers. 30 billion has been invested in the state, just the state of Alabama, by foreign direct investment from 1999 to 2018. 32 different countries invest in just in the state of Alabama, which has created 88,000 jobs in your state since 1999. And so you can't not be paying attention to this if you're in the business of real estate, property, community, connectivity to understanding what's happening in your own backyard. You could see the top 5 countries, but there's 32 different. Your top 5, I'm sure you can all name why they're top 5, right? So you have Mercedes-Benz, well, that's Germany. You have Airbus, well, that's France. Canada, South Korea, Japan, and you can name, you know, Hyundai, Toyota, Mazda, Honda, all LG Electronics. You can go on and on. This is your state. You should know these companies in that business, not me. But these are the reasons. Rooftops create jobs, jobs create rooftops. And so being able to understand what's happening in your state is very imperative to understanding your role in the market and how you can help connect your community to homes, to businesses, to jobs, and continue to flourish it. So we're here at the National Association of Realtors to help you understand and provide you more resources. There's education, of course. I'm sure a few of you on the call hold the Certified International Property Specialist, the CIPS designation, which is NAR's only international designation. That's another network. There's all kinds of global councils like this one. A lot of them have opened their doors to let, especially now that there are no doors, to join in and listen to their meetings and participate and create your network that way all around the United States. So that's all I wanted to share with you today. If you have any questions, you can put them in the chat. Will has my contact information as well. But that's all I have for you guys today.
Wow, that's a lot. Thank you. Go ahead.
Lisa, I see a hand up. Kelly? I saw her raise her hand, so I'm not sure if she has a question for you or not.
Okay. Well,
You're speaking of me? No.
No, okay.
Yeah, I'm good. I don't have a question. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you again for having me and best of luck to you. And like I said, reach out with any questions. I look forward to working with you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. That was great information. Wow. So, guys, if you, like Lisa said, if you don't know what's going on from an international standpoint here in our state, this is definitely the time for you to get that knowledge, because we have a lot of money that's flowing into our state from an international standpoint. So that was some great information. Great information. Thank you. So next we have talking about the local government. So we've heard just from Lisa about the international standpoint, but Mr. Kevin Thatcher, he is with the Director of Intergovernment with the city of Birmingham, so in Jefferson County. So Mr. Thatcher, we will put it over to you, sir.
How are you?
Doing well, thank you.
Good, thank you guys for having us. We appreciate it. Then as I mentioned during my brief comments, and I'm available for questions, and Will has my contact information, and we'll make sure we share that with you all. But we're very excited and pleased to be able to partner with BAR throughout the year. Will has done a fantastic job in making sure that we're aware and engaged with BAR on a number of fronts, not just kind of the traditional realtor role for the organization, but the overall growth of the region itself, which drives jobs and our economy, and rooftops being developed and sold here in the 7 or 8 county region that surrounds Birmingham. So thank you for having us, first of all, and we appreciate the opportunity to be a part of your conversation today. Will really wanted us to talk, when we talked about what Birmingham is doing kind of on the international scene to make our city and our region more attractive for international business. There are a couple things, and I'll rattle those off, and we can talk more about them. So I'll be brief, so there'll be a couple minutes at the end. The first thing we're doing is we're investing in transportation. So the Birmingham Airport Authority was kind of job number one for Mayor Whitman when he came in November of 2017. We restructured kind of what the typical board member looks like. We were very excited to put some high quality, dynamic folks on that board. We really jump-started the redevelopment of that area around the Airport Authority. You may have seen some of the amazing things that are happening, a new kind of rental car, fast, quick turnaround facility that's just about to be opened. There are about 700 acres of, the airport owns about 700 acres of land. We worked very closely with them and the governor and having 400 acres of the property surrounding the airport designated as opportunity zones. And so we're the only city in the Southeast that has an airport in an opportunity zone, which makes us, I think, very attractive and very competitive for investment, both locally, across the country, and also internationally. We're also investing very heavily in our port. So the Mayor Whitfield, is very committed to Birmingham being our logistics center, just because of where we sit in the geography of not just Alabama, but the Southeast, with 2059 and 65 and now 22 all engaging right here in Birmingham. There's an easy access to the city. We also have tremendous railway connectivity. We have the airport, as I've already mentioned, and now we are really investing in getting our inland port going. For the first time ever, this will be a competitive opportunity to move goods in and across this region, all the way down through Mobile and back out to the Gulf. We are great partners with the largest employer in the state of Alabama. The education and the economic engine of the state of Alabama is the University of Alabama, Birmingham. Billions of dollars of economic impact every day. They do a phenomenal job of bringing tremendous intelligentsia from around the country in here right into Birmingham. The international students, as we just mentioned, but as importantly, international researchers, international doctors and physicians. Birmingham is not just your southern town anymore. We've got a little bit of flavor from around the world, and UAB plays a great role in it, and the university continues to grow. There's several projects on the table right now that will make UAB global leaders in advanced research areas that they have not been a part of before. They're continuing to excel. For 2 years in a row, they've been named the #1 young university in the world. And so we are very proud to be home to UAB, and we deal with them literally every day. Birmingham also has a foreign trade designation, and I can send you guys a lot more about that, but it makes it easier for us to set up partnerships with foreign entities doing business in and around the city. And our power goes as far, our authority goes as far as we set up a designation all the way up in advance using our authority that we've been granted, that we pursued and were granted, that allowed a Mercedes-Benz supplier to be able to set up utilizing the FTZ benefits that are duty-free things and some other benefits of it that I'm happy to send you all and give you all the kind of the ins and outs of that. But the foreign trade designation has been very important. We haven't even leveraged close to the reach of its potential, but we're very close to doing it. We have a very aggressive plan. We also are partnering with neighboring cities. For too long, Birmingham and Homewood and Vestavia and Mount Brook and Irondale and some of the other towns, we've competed against each other. It just doesn't make sense. As a region, we have to work together. We have to compete against Austin and Charlotte and Chattanooga and Atlanta. We're not competing amongst ourselves anymore. So in the last couple of years, Mayor Whitman worked very closely with the Community Foundation and Mayor Welch, who was a great guy, the mayor of Mountain Brook, and they created an agreement that really, for the first time, put on paper a commitment to working to each other and not trying to go in and quote unquote poach businesses from each other. Instead, we are partnering all the time and trying to make our region better. We worked with Vestavia, Mount Brook, and Hoover on a number of projects already. We're very excited to be able to bring those partnerships to bear to help grow the regional economy and make this area more attractive to everyone. We're also reaching across the aisle. Mayor Woodfin is Democrat, but we work very closely with our Republican governor, with our Republican senator, and the Republican White House. And we have been very blessed to have see some fruits from those bipartisan relationships, because it ain't about red or blue. It ain't about DNR. It is about the folks that the mayor was elected to serve. And we work very hard to make sure that we use those relationships to benefit the city and the state.
Amen.
And finally, we're partnering with you guys. And so our relationship with BAR has been fantastic. I just let y'all know that when Will wants something from the city of Birmingham, I'll get a text message, I'll get an email, I'll get a phone call, and sometimes I'll get a visit knocking at my door. We'll make sure that BAR is represented to the nth degree. And not just in the kind of the everyday ways you may think of the real kind of the realtor community being engaged, but across the board. And all of our neighborhood realization stuff, Will's right there with us, and he brings BAR alongside. And so we are incredibly appreciative for the opportunity to work with you all. Our door is always open. If you don't believe me, Will knocks it open all the time. But you can reach us, and we are here for you. On behalf of Mayor Woodfin, we are very thankful that BAR invited us to be a part of this. And whenever y'all need us, we're right downtown Birmingham.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And collaboration is definitely key. So I was happy to hear you say that about the cities coming together, and then the bipartisan. Because if we're going to improve lives, it takes everybody. You know, once I started earlier in the beginning and saying how we have to work across cultures, ethnicities, and understand that everyone has a voice. And if we work together, we can accomplish so much more. So definitely. So thank you so much. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Thatcher? All right. I will.
Keep up the relationship. Keep up the good work. Thank you.
No, thank you all. We appreciate it.
Will, do you have a question?
Yes, I have one question. Hey, how you doing there, Mr. Thatcher? I can't hear you. You're muted. Let me see. Can we do something about that? There we go. Mr. Thatcher?
Yes, sir.
How you doing? Will Bailey here, man. It's good to see you.
I recognize you, Will.
I want to say personally, man, I want to thank you and the mayor's administration for being so transparent and also allowing us to have that free range of relationship and communication. The work that you all are doing through the big picture and through the strategic plan and the great industry that you're bringing speaks to the great leadership that the city is providing. And so we are just honored, and I think I can speak on behalf of all of us, we're just honored to be a community partner, to be able to work with such a great administration. And so if there's anything that we can do, you just know that the door swings both ways. So we appreciate it.
Absolutely, Will. And, you know, the non-traditional partnership I mentioned was, as you know, during this COVID time, our restaurants and bars have been a vital part of the rebirth of downtown Birmingham and really, you know, making us an attractive place to be. COVID has restricted kind of, you know, people's opportunity to go into restaurants. BAR supported our Eat in the Streets initiative in Avondale. We'll be happy to know, Will, that we're moving forward with 3 new options for outdoor dining. And we'll be working with you guys to help spread the word. So I appreciate it again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you again. We greatly appreciate it. And continued alliance between the city of Birmingham and definitely Birmingham Association of Realtors and the CAGA. So we appreciate you. Next we have, we're going to hear about international business and innovation in Alabama. And that's Mr. Ted Clem. He's Director of Recruitment and Retention for Alabama Department of Commerce. So, Mr. Clement, are you with us?
I am here. Can you hear me good?
Yes, sir, we can.
All right, good deal. Well, I appreciate the invitation to join you for just a few minutes here. It's been a busy day. We're all trying to, at the Department of Commerce, to understand how to work and continue to do our jobs remotely, as most of you are as well. So I think this is about Zoom is about the 5th video app I have on my computer right now, because everybody has a different way of doing things, it seems. But this has become the new normal of trying to communicate with others. So, but thank you for the invitation. And just a little background about me. I've been with the state of Alabama for about 7 years now, but have spent my entire professional career working in economic development circles and local communities. I was born and raised in Alabama, and I can tell you as a boy, growing up in Alabama, Alabama today is an entirely different state when it comes to the international community. In fact, the foreign direct investment has totally transformed the state of Alabama over the last 30 years. And never would have predicted that or imagined that would happen in the state of Alabama, but we're now the number 3 state in the country in terms of automotive production in the United States, and a lot of that is directly through foreign direct investment. Just in the last year alone, I pulled out some numbers that I wanted to share with you. In the state of Alabama in 2019, $3.2 billion of capital investment was made in the state of Alabama from foreign companies in our state. And that helped create almost 5,000 new jobs across the state. These are in the automotive sector, the aerospace sector, and other advanced manufacturing plants from Mobile to Montgomery to Birmingham to Huntsville, all across our state. Foreign direct investment is really continuing to transform our state. The countries involved, number 1 for the last year was South Korea in terms of their capital investment in the state of Alabama. Most of that was in the automotive sector, followed by Japan, and then a hodgepodge of European companies following close behind Japan. And the European countries, their investments are mostly in automotive and aerospace, and then a few other advanced manufacturing. The investment from Japan is primarily in the automotive sector as well. These have become the lifeblood of our economic development over the last 2 decades in the state of Alabama, and it has continued to do so. Obviously, going forward, this pandemic is going to have a severe impact on our ability to continue to attract foreign direct investment. Things like travel bans and difficulties of getting visas for foreign workers and things like that will impact the abilities of some of these companies to continue to make investments in the United States. And of course, that's going to impact Alabama as well. But we're trying to work through it as best we can and keep our communications open. This past year, we opened up, for the first time in almost a decade, we opened up a full-time office in Europe to represent the state of Alabama. So we have a kind of our own economic developer on the ground and located in Germany to help us continue to develop relationships with companies that want to invest in the United States, but more importantly, so we can convince them that Alabama is the best place for that investment. Other than that, economic development activity, as you can imagine, almost fell off the cliff in March when the shutdown happened, but it is slowly coming back. The last 3 weeks have been some of the busiest I've ever had at the Department of Commerce in terms of inquiries and from business prospects and companies wanting to pick back up where they left off several months ago with their plans for expansions. So hopefully there are brighter days ahead in terms of our economic development activity. I'll just leave it at that. I think I had 10 minutes or so, but I'll be glad to answer any questions you might have.
Awesome, great information. Yes, so do you guys have any questions for Mr. Clem? No questions in the chat? Well, that's great information, especially about where we stand in the United States, the state, as far as the car manufacturing. I wrote that down. That was very interesting as well. And to hear that we have a headquarters internationally is also. So that's great information.
It's very good to have our own paid staff member in Europe on the ground who knows and understands the industries that we deal with on a regular basis. And, you know, when you're dealing with foreign companies, you know, English is the language of choice in the business community, but there's still a language barrier. So it's helpful to have a native speaker on the ground in Germany who can help develop those relationships for us.
Yeah, that's huge. Well, were you about to say something? Okay. All right, great. Well, thank you again, Mr. Clem. We greatly appreciate it. The great information that you shared with us today.
All right, thank you so much. Enjoyed having you here.
Appreciate you. All right, up next, we're going to be talking about the state of international and minority real estate. So we have three great speakers, three additional great speakers who are going to speak on that. And our first speaker is going to be the National President of AREA, the Asian Real Estate Association, and that's Mr. James Hong. So Mr. Hong, are you there?
I am here. Can everyone hear me?
We can.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Central Alabama. And I will tell you, I do know Alabama. I went up to Huntsville. I was in Birmingham. I was in Montgomery, and I did go all the way down to Mobile. And can you believe it? One day. I was in the car being driven around, and there is a lot of great opportunities. I did get to meet with a lot of your mayors and your cabinet members. So it was very exciting. I do want to give a shout out to Han Hua, who I know will be our policy chair for AREA. So I know she's very, very involved. I see my friend Michael Simpson and a lot of other friends here on the line. But I love what everyone's saying, collaboration, connecting, and really helping our local communities. And not to get off topic, but I'll give everyone the State of Asia America report. That so many Asians and APIs, immigrants and people migrating, are coming to the South and the Midwest, mostly for the affordability factor. And in the State of Asia America, like everyone says, if you want to connect and relate, you got to understand who you're talking to. So one of the important things is really read the State of Asia America, where it will kind of give you a timeline and history of the AAPI community, where we're not just one big group. You may say Asians. Well, that's true. But we are broken up into 26 different countries, 51 different languages. So how's that to communicate and get to know each other? And as I saw from Korea and Japan, and I'm going to do this for you. One of my friends is very close with the president of Korea. So she just came back, and maybe I could do something for Alabama. So, you know, one of the great things is all these connections and relationships and friendships and understanding and just going to visit. And I'm glad the games are going to be there, because it's going to bring a lot of attention to Alabama and the great things. And I learned about the what is it, Tier 1 rail system, the 6 spoke, and all these great things. But until you go to Alabama, you just don't know what's going on. Plus, a major hub. You're only an hour and a half from Atlanta and other places in Nashville. So there are so many good things and so much opportunities, and the openness is what I love about Alabama and the people there. So, you know, yes, State of Asia America, and why Asians are going because of the affordability of homes. And many are coming that are Japanese, Vietnamese, Filipino. So you're seeing a lot of migration and people coming over. So it's great to understand our community. For those that are not familiar with AREA, the Asian Real Estate Association of America, open for everyone to join. I know you have a great chapter in Birmingham, and I really encourage people to join it, get involved, get to know the culture, because it is true. with Korea, Japan, and others. There more and more money. I know even China was talking about doing something over there too. So there's a lot of interesting things from the Asian countries moving over. So it's great to be involved with ARIA, understand the culture, get our data, build these friendships and relationships, because more opportunities coming to Alabama. And I just think with this global group, let's all grab it, right? Alabama, right, Will? Let's get it. Let's get it right here. So I just want to thank everyone for the opportunity. Please, please read the State of Asia America report. And I would just say, if there's any question, you could just talk to Han. Han's there, so she'll answer any of the questions. She's the local girl there. So thank you so much for this opportunity to share.
Thank you so much. Han's like, okay. Han, do you want to say something?
No, I'm just glad to see James and y'all are doing this, because in Alabama, I think your group is the only global council in the state. And we started one on the Gulf Coast, but it's on hiatus right now. So I'm kind of jealous of y'all and what you're doing. But yeah, like Jim said, if you have any questions about ARIA or just Asian American and any of that, just feel free to let me know. I am a bit far from y'all, but not that far. I'm on the Gulf Coast in Mobile, so just come visit us on the beach. It's kind of hot right now, but y'all should come to the fall.
That sounds like a great plan.
Yes, it does. I'm all about the beach. So thank you both for speaking about ARIA. And in the chat is the link to where you can click on to look at the State of Asia report. So thank you again so much for bringing up those points, specifically about the 26 different countries that make up the AAPI community. And just like you said, if you're going to help people, you have to meet them where they are. You have to understand where they're coming from. So definitely reading that report will help with that, because I have. So it is a wealth of information. So thank you both for coming to represent ARIA. So next, we're going to hear from Mr. Tony Alvarez, who is the president of Global Espanol. And Tony is going to talk about the state of minority and international in real estate as well. But Tony?
Hi, how are you? How you all doing?
Great.
We're going to be talking a little bit what is mostly the Hispanic market, what is affecting us, not only nationwide, but also here in Alabama. Some of the statistics that I have from the U.S. Census Bureau is that the Hispanic home ownership rate has increased from 45.6% in 2015 to 47.5% in 2019. That's roughly like 1.9 new home owners that are Hispanics. And just 2019, we have 435,000 new Hispanic households. And according to Freddie Mac, the mortgage in 2018, we have 4.9 million mortgage-ready Hispanic millennials in the U.S. So there is a big pool of opportunity that we have within the Hispanic community. They are buying, and just here on the state of Alabama, the Hispanic home ownership rate is 51.51%. So, you know, half the population we have over here is only like 4.3% of the population in Alabama are Hispanic. So half of those 4.3% are homeowners. They're buying properties. One of the things, we have more products for people with tax identification numbers. The mortgages are being more flexible with some of them, although the interest rate for them are a little bit higher because of the risk or whatever you want to call it. And also here in Alabama, we are the top one state for the Hispanic ownership with a 40% increase just in Alabama. So the opportunity is there. The market that we have over here is it's amazing. It's a cultural thing. One of the barriers that we are encountering here in Alabama is that we don't have enough Latino realtors, enough Hispanic realtors that understand the culture, that speak the language, because the way we work, our culture is we rather work with somebody that speak our language, that understand this. And also from the legal standpoint of view, as realtors, we can fall into some legal issues when talking to the 7-year-old kid to translate to mom, and probably that translation is not going to be accurate, so we can get into some sort of liability. One of the things, like I say, we need more Latinos and mortgage professionals that understand the culture, that speak the language, that know all the products that are available for people. The top obstacles or barriers that I encounter, that we're facing here in Alabama, is besides that we really don't have that much inventory. The inventory within the price range of our customer is low. Most of the Hispanics also, they have poor, little or no credit at all. So that also is slowed down a little bit. Some of them, they don't have enough money saved for the down payment and cover some of the closing costs. And also we having a difficulty documenting income, because some of the borrowers, they're self-employed. So that self-employment status is bringing some difficulty for them to apply some of the mortgages. And the last one is that some of them don't have a valid or current form of ID. Here in Alabama, you don't need to have an Alabama ID or driver license to buy a property. You can use your foreign passport. You can use, if you're a Mexican, you can use your little identification they have in Mexico. Anything, as long as valid and it has not expired. So we have a big opportunity. Alabama is buying. Here in Alabama, a lot of Hispanics are buying also fixer-uppers. They rather do that so they can fix and have the home the way they like it, the way they love it, put the colors they want. We're very specific in some of the colors we like. And also, not only becoming homeowners, many of them are becoming landlords. They're buying properties, fixing it, and rent them out as well. So if you in your office have an agent that speaks Spanish, you should team out with him and see which way, or her, which way you guys can work together and take advantage of what's going on here in Alabama with the Hispanic community. And that's what I got. Any questions you might have?
Anybody have any questions for Tony? That was some great stats. Like, I'm over here writing. I know you guys can probably see me put my head down. I'm actually taking notes. So that was some more great stats. And I really, the ones that stood out to me was half of the Hispanic populations are buying properties.
Yes,
that's huge.
It's huge, you know. And the most interesting part also, and nationwide, is the demographic on that is the youngsters, the millennials. A lot of people hate them. I don't know why. I love them. They're buying. Many Hispanics under 34 years old are buying properties compared with their counterparts, blacks, whites, or Asians. The Hispanics, the younger Hispanic community is buying. Overall, I think the median age is 44 years old. You know, 69% of 44 years old or younger Hispanics are buying properties nationwide. And I'm seeing here this in Alabama, 80% of my customers are Hispanics, and they're young. I mean, when I mean young, younger than me. And they are in their 30s and young families starting over, and they buying fixer-uppers. So there's a market opportunity here in Alabama that we can take advantage of it. James Juan was talking about, you know, some other people immigrating from other states coming this way. Just from California, there is 205,000 people last year emigrate out of California coming down south. Atlanta, Tennessee, Alabama. I just took care of like 5 clients this year that moved from California coming over here, sold their properties over there, and with the money they make, they were able to buy cash with no problems, their dream home over here that otherwise they won't have been able to do it on those big estates. So it's an opportunity out there. And like I say, if you guys have a realtor that speaks Spanish in your brokerage, you should take advantage of that. If you don't have it, I'll give you my number. We know how to work.
That's right, Tony. Well, that's great information, great information. And William added something in the chat. William, do you just want to speak what you typed?
Yes. What hurts minority business, what hurts minorities and home buyers process most? Is it the underwriting standards? Is it the antiquated credit scoring models? Or is it some other factors that we don't see? And I wanted to open it up to James, Tony, and to Marcus. And Marcus, you want to do your presentation first and come back to it? I'll be fine with that too.
In the Hispanic community, what I can say real quick, is, we do have some underwriting standards that are affecting nationwide. Here in Alabama, I know of a lender that they have underwriters that speak Spanish, that know the culture. They understand the things that most of the Hispanic self-employed go through. So, you know, we can work that out. And the antiquated credit scoring models, that is hurting a lot. And what happened with COVID, having FHA raising the credit score, that also affected, personally, a couple of my clients affect their score. They were finding the 620 and then boom, you know, have a little bit of problem with that. But overall, those are the two major things, the underwriting and the credit scoring model.
And going with the AAPI community, the Asian American Pacific Islander community, we also have the same problem with the underwriting. Since a lot of Asians like to pay all cash, they don't want to build debt, right? But in America, that's good, right? You pay it off, you build credit, right? That's building credit, not building debt, right? So a lot of the AAPI community, they just pay off their cars. They just try to save 20%, 30% down. And that's one of the biggest reasons why they're immigrating or migrating to different areas, because most of the AAPIs are on the coastal, the very expensive. They have the highest loans that they borrow. And because of that, they're looking for more affordability and really education, because they don't understand different loan products, right? And like I said before, one of the big issues is language. So can you imagine, one of our biggest problems within the AAPI community is a lot of times they come over, we know how complicated filling out mortgage forms. Can you imagine you can't read English and you're relying on their children and other people, right, Tony? They're just looking through this and because their kids can speak English, but you're letting a kid that cannot sign a contract interpret what's going on. And I know within a lot of immigrant communities, they just, you know, this is the best way. So we're always really fighting to have that language access so people can interpret what it is, so we can, you know, really understand what we're signing, and that will increase home ownership. Plus, as Tony said too, the alternative credit model, right? The antiquated, people are paying their bills on time, whether it's wireless bills, their rent, but a lot of these are not being shown. And we know within the AAPI community, we would have 3 million first-time buyers ready, right? Mortgage-ready buyers, right? Just thin credit files, because they just have no credit, no scoring. You can't score them. And also overall, as Tony knows, we can open 30 million people could be scored. And that is a huge opportunity for all of us. And this is something we could all work together on.
Totally agree. And James mentioned something about the down payment. A lot of people don't have that 10 and 20%. Statistically, in Hispanics, they usually put from 3 to 4%. That is, you know, taking advantage of some of the products, and they're not paying more, you know, and that's where it comes, you know, that the antiquated credit scoring models, but they saving their money to 3.5%, and they're being able to pay. Here in Alabama, we do have some lenders that work directly with Hispanics, understand the culture. That's the other thing, that we need to understand the culture, know the difference. Like with the Asian Pacific people, you know, being Vietnamese is not the same that being Korean, that being Thailand. Same with us. Being Mexican is not the same that being Puerto Rican or being South Korean. It's totally different cultures that we need to, you know, learn with him. That's what I always tell people, you know, find somebody.
Tony, everyone's not Mexican, right?
And everyone is not Chinese, right?
Right? We hate that.
Well, that's why the sensitivity, right? It's important to understand, culture and understand how we can collaborate and educate one another on areas that we may not be knowledgeable about, specifically when we're trying to work globally and internationally. So those are great, great points. Thank you guys for sharing that. And also, I don't know if you saw it in the chat or not, but Candy was saying that HICA, they provide housing counseling in Spanish. So you guys may want to check that out as well. And then Han also shared a link as well. So
Yeah,
definitely check out. Yes.
Can I speak to that? So as part of ARIA, we always have a policy platform every year that we advocate on. So a lot of ours is pretty similar to what Tony was talking about, which is alternative credit scoring. There is there's I think a bill that's passed already, but it's a very small, I think, kind of beta testing group of using alternative credit scoring models. And if you do consumer debt, not consumer debt, but like car loans, use alternative credit models a lot more than mortgages, in case y'all didn't know that. And then another one that we always advocate for was language access. So the Federal Housing Finance Agency, actually, if you go to the website that I put in the chat, they have a clearinghouse, basically of terminology that even, I mean, as Americans, some don't know, right, of mortgages in different languages. So the top two are Chinese, Spanish. They have it in Vietnamese, Korean, and Tagalog now. So they take like the top 5-10 languages, take data together from the census to do that. So they've been working on that for the past couple of years. And I know the URLA form, the Uniform Residential Loan, it's in Spanish and English. But in case y'all didn't know that, that's a helpful resource.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that information. Great stuff. Great stuff. Well, Mr. Marcus Brown, are you ready to talk to us about
yes, I am.
real estate, minority real estate, representing Birmingham Realtors?
Birmingham Realtors. Right. Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for the opportunity. Coming behind so many great speakers, I kind of had a script, and now I'm like you, Tanya. I've been scribbling some notes and wanted to address some things and answer some questions. But just want to quickly say thank you to you. Thank you, Will Baylor. I literally watched Will grow up, and so proud of the man he's become. Thank you, Will. Thank you, Phyllis. I'll be real quick, and then, like I said, if there's any questions or anything like that, I'll be happy to answer those. Reading a book now, The Color of Law, as we talk about the state of minority real estate. And, it addresses some issues and things that have caused African-American real estate homeowners to be where they are right now. And one of the things that he said in the book is that it's up to the people through our elected representatives to issue remedies for the issues that may ail us right now. We just recently got the numbers on our second quarter home ownership numbers, and Black home ownership has had a consistent I think it's been 4 in a row now, as far as the quarters where we've had an increase in Black home ownership. We're at 47%, and again, that's up from 44%. So we have 4 quarters of increase. So where we are on that, we celebrate that small victory, but at the same time, we do understand that a rising tide lifts all boats, and so the low interest rates has driven that. And so, yes, we have had an increase, but there's been an increase pretty much across the board. And so we still, as Black homeowners, have about a 30% gap between Black home ownership and white home ownership national. In Birmingham, it doesn't quite look that way, but nationally, there's still work to be done. So there's some issues. And when he mentioned working with elected officials, there's a couple of things I just wanted to mention. If you're in real estate sales, we know that the largest issue facing the people that we serve is down payment. And so yesterday, Senator Doug Jones, along with Senator Cory Gardner, introduced a bill, the American Dream Down Payment Act of 2020. that is important because it'll be operated similar to the 529 savings plan, as in tuition, which would allow home buyers to pre-tax save for the purchase of a home. And it'll be something that not just that individual, but family members, friends can contribute to this plan, this American Dream Down Payment Act. So if it is successful in the Senate, then Congressman Gregory Meeks in New York is going to pick it up and try to get it through the House of Representatives. But that is going to be that's one thing that's going to be very important to our community, is helping people to get around the barrier, which is that down payment. And Neighborhood Housing had just put something in the chat box talking about how using down payment assistance, $1.8 million in down payment assistance led to $30 million in sales of homes here in Birmingham. So that down payment assistance is critical. So that American Dream Down Payment Act is one thing that NAREB is working on nationally as far as working with elected officials. Another thing that we're approaching is we're reaching out to elected officials to expand the HUD Section 184 to include Black Americans. What HUD Section 184 is, it's a program that was created by Housing and Community Development in 1992 to address a lack of affordable mortgages in Native and tribal communities. And we're reaching out to our elected officials to say we'd like to add Black Americans to that, because there were some things that went on prior to the Fair Housing Act, and then even some after that again affected our abilities to own homes. So expanding HUD Section 184 is another measure that we've taken. And then finally, NAREB has issued a statement, and I believe NAR has issued the same statement expressing opposition to HUD revoking the 2015 Fair Housing Rule that requires anyone that receives those HUD dollars to evaluate, any states or localities that receive those funds to evaluate and make sure everything is being done fairly and that there's no barriers to home ownership. So NAREB has expressed their concern, and again, I think NAR has done the same with that. So those are some things nationally, I'm sorry. Locally, Tanya, we've had a conversation as far as the Birmingham Realtors Association, and the last time that we were able to meet prior to COVID shutting the world down, and Will was actually there as well, and we had someone from City Hall there. I've seen where the mayor's, one of his top goals is revitalization of communities. And so that's something that on a local level, we're planning on coming together and figuring out what we can do to bring some of these communities back. Mr. Batcher mentioned with UAB being a large employer, the diversity that they've brought to the city. James and Tony talking about the people that they are working with in their communities, all of these people in the city. And so we hope from our perspective that we can work together to not just benefit our members by playing a part in that, but benefiting the community as a whole, increasing the diversity in the city. And so those are some of the things that we're going to be doing here locally, and partnering with neighborhood housing services. Most of our members, if not all, a large part of the Birmingham Realtors Association are also members of the bar. And so we hope that we can all work together to help address that. As far as Will's question about some of the barriers when it comes to lending, one thing that I do know, and I think the others have mentioned, with some of the guidelines, FHA in particular, I've even heard some lenders that have been frustrated with the process, the underwriting process, because, for example, student loan debt. If you have someone that's not able to qualify for a conventional loan, but they have the same amount of student debt, it's going to be kind of differently in their ratios and their overlays. And it's going to either have them where they can't afford as much home, or some that may not even be able to afford a home simply because of how that same amount of debt is calculated based on the credit and the type of loan that they have to qualify for. So that's one of the things that I've seen personally, where someone, again, same income, same amount of house, but just because of the type of loan, which African Americans probably overwhelmingly are using FHA lending, they don't qualify. And so those are some of the things that affect the underwriting standards, and then the down payment assistance, I think, are two of the largest barriers affecting Black home ownership. I think that's everything that I had. If there's any questions for me, like I said, I don't want to, belabor the time. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Great stuff, as always. So yes, it's huge about when you were talking about on a national level about the HUD section, 184, right? 184.
Right.
And expanding it. I think that's huge on a lot of levels, because that basically is the inclusion. It's showing inclusion. It's recognizing that, okay, back a long while ago, you were not included. This class was not included, and you couldn't realize home ownership, or things were taken away. So I think that is really huge on a national level. And also definitely on a local level, it's all about us revitalizing Birmingham, revitalizing the surrounding cities, and making home ownership affordable, for all, and being able to have pride in what you're purchasing. So back to what Tony was saying about the revitalization of the properties. And so that just helps all of us here locally, here statewide, and even nationally. So I am super excited about that as well. William, did you have anything to add to Marcus?
Just one thing I wanted to ask. And I know we're reaching the end, but I wanted to ask this quick question to both Mr. Brown, Mr. Ares, and Mr. Hahn, is how does implicit bias play into the home ownership, for minorities? Is there a lot of implicit bias, and can you kind of talk about some of the things that we as minorities are facing because of that in the home buyers process?
I saw someone typing there. I didn't know if they were trying to respond in the chat or not. Oh, no.
So will anybody?
Go ahead, James.
Yeah, that's to all three of you. Yeah.
Okay. So I know currently, because of COVID, the AAPI is almost hesitant to go to certain areas in a lot of just what's going on, because like the African-American community, Asians are being hard hit in our local businesses. And with kind of the rise in kind of the Asian hate crimes are going up, they are now a little afraid of where they can go. So that is a unique barrier now that is adjusting people's buying, wait, hold off, where should we move? Do we feel comfortable going in certain communities? Because they're just afraid, because they've just been seeing an uptick of hatred, so it's not good.
We still face the same concept, that we don't speak the language. We all are illegals in this country, and that type of things. And even though we are in 2020, still there's some places that here in Alabama, per se, that people still get surprised when they see somebody that is Hispanic that speak the language, or at least understand, and they definitely act surprised and don't understand that. It is mostly, that's what we encounter more, that people, it's just that, those two things, that people think we're all illegals and we don't speak the language.
Yeah, and I think that one of the things that I've seen as well, until maybe they get to know their neighbors and things like that, I've had clients that have moved into certain communities that, again, like you all are saying, the certain stereotypes that you get, how neighbors will treat them one way until they say things like, what, he does cut his grass and he's not parking his car on the lawn, and those type things, but initially they have to almost go in and earn that respect, versus just being the fact that you were able to purchase a home in this community, that you're giving that until you otherwise lose it. They aren't given that up front. They have to go in and earn it, and then even then, maybe they're seen as the exception and not the rule, because they still kind of think, you know, they still may have that perception. You're just different, you know. So yeah, I've heard that from clients. And real quick, what I will say is I had a call from a lady. It's been a while now, but she, you know, called me. She had seen me somewhere on an advertisement. Identified herself as being white. She identified the community that she lived in. And when she called, she said, "I want you to sell my house, and I only want you to sell it to somebody black." I said, "Excuse me?" You know, I said, "I'm sorry, I can't do that." What do you mean? But she called me because she said that she was upset that she identified herself as white. She said that she had a black friend that wanted to move into her community, and that without a doubt, she knew that the neighbors and that there were people that did some things to prevent her friend from moving into the community. And I just had to explain to her that I'm sorry that happened to your friend, but you know, that's just not something that we're able to do. We have a standard, and that's just not the right thing to do. I just apologize that happened to her.
Yeah. All right. Thank you guys, all three gentlemen, for answering that. And I just want to say that I have been part of a virtual advocacy workshop, and the word that describes what you were talking about, Marcus, when you first started, is gaslighting. So that's a word. If you don't know it, look it up. But that is a term where someone says something of like, "Oh, I didn't know that you guys," or somebody, you know, so it's called gaslighting. But thank you, everybody. This has been so powerful. Thank you all for your voices. It's been great. But I do want to pass the mic over to our chair, Miss Phyllis Connell, to take us out. So, Miss Connell, are you there with us?
We have had an amazing success, all because of you, our special guests, as well as our attendees. And I know, even though virtual is the thing, but you don't know how much we appreciate you taking the time to come and speak to us on such an important matter. So thank you, each and every one. If you need us, call on us, text us, email us. We'll be there. Just let us know. Thank you for a successful day. Bye-bye.
William, did you have any last words?
Oh, just again, just say what I want to thank Global for putting this together. And I want to thank all of our speakers for coming out and being a part of this summit. You know, the world keeps getting smaller, and the labor of neighbor isn't just door to door anymore, but it stretches across continents and across countries. And I just want to thank you all for providing educational tools and for bridging the gap of connectivity so we can understand the global perspective of business and the local market. So thank you very much.
So we hope everyone walked away informed. We'll throw out the resources of all the places and the email address so you can continue to educate yourself on global international businesses. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a